It was a quiet night on Earth. The stars twinkled in the dark sky, and the wind blew gently across the land. But something strange was about to happen. Far above, in the vastness of space, a fleet of ships, unlike anything humans had ever seen, began to approach Earth. The alien ships were enormous. Their metal surfaces shimmered under the light of distant stars, reflecting the beauty of the cosmos. These were not ships made for peaceful exploration. They were warships, built for one purpose, to conquer. The fleet had traveled across countless galaxies, following orders from their commander to invade a new planet. Earth was their target. Inside the lead ship, the alien commander, known as Zorath, stood in front of a large window, staring at the blue and green planet below. His eyes gleamed with cold confidence. He had led countless invasions across the universe, and every time, victory had been inevitable. He was certain that Earth would be no different. "We've arrived," Zorath said, his voice smooth but cold. "Prepare the fleet for descent." The alien soldiers, strong and disciplined, followed their orders without question. They didn't fear the unknown. They had studied the planet for weeks, gathering information from their advanced technology. They knew the planet's resources, the population size, and the weak spots they could exploit. Humans, they believed, were nothing more than primitive creatures who could be easily overrun. The fleet moved closer to Earth. It was an impressive sight, hundreds of ships, each one capable of massive destruction. As they entered the planet's atmosphere, the aliens marveled at the beauty of the planet. They had never seen anything quite like it. Blue oceans stretched for miles, and green forests covered the land like a soft carpet. Yet, to them, it was nothing more than a place to conquer, a planet ripe for the taking. The ships descended into Earth's atmosphere with precision, their powerful engines glowing bright as they cut through the clouds. It was a smooth landing, but something was strange. The planet seemed almost silent. There was no sign of human defense, no military forces ready to stop them. It was as if Earth was unprepared for what was coming. Zorath's eyes narrowed. He expected more resistance, more signs of life. But there was nothing. The humans were nowhere to be seen. His confidence grew even stronger. They must be hiding, he thought. They have no chance against us. The fleet touched down in a vast, open field. The grass swayed in the gentle breeze, and the air smelled fresh. Zorath stepped off his ship and onto the planet's surface, his boots crunching the earth beneath him. His soldiers followed, standing tall and ready for battle. The aliens had advanced technology, weapons that could destroy cities with a single blast. Their armor was nearly impenetrable, and their ships were faster than anything Earth had ever seen. They were sure this would be an easy conquest. But as they moved forward, something unexpected happened. A strange energy field appeared in the sky, like a shimmering barrier. The fleet halted. Zorath looked up, confused. "What is that?" he wondered aloud. A soft humming noise filled the air, and the ground beneath them vibrated slightly. Then, out of nowhere, one of the ships was hit by a powerful shockwave. It exploded in a burst of fire and light, sending debris flying across the field. Zorath stared in disbelief. "What just happened?" he muttered. The ship had been destroyed by something they couldn't see or understand. The other alien soldiers quickly raised their weapons, scanning the area for any signs of life. But there was no one. No humans. Just the strange energy field and the remains of their fallen ship. Panic spread through the fleet. They had expected a simple invasion, but now, they realized something was very wrong. Zorath clenched his fists. This was a mistake, he thought. We underestimated them. But it was too late to turn back. The invasion had already begun. Zorath stood frozen for a moment, watching the explosion from the destroyed ship. The smoke and fire were still rising from the wreckage, and the eerie silence that followed was almost suffocating. His mind raced. What could have caused that? There was no known weapon on Earth capable of doing this. Get me a full report. Zorith barked at one of his lieutenants. The lieutenant immediately began scanning the area, trying to make sense of what had just happened. But Zorith wasn't one to show fear, not in front of his troops. He straightened his posture and called out to his soldiers. Stay calm. This is just a temporary setback. We will proceed as planned. The humans will fall, just as every other species has. The soldiers nodded, their fear masked by their training. They knew their commander's reputation. Zorith was known across the galaxy as a conqueror, someone who never lost. His pride was unshakable. He believed nothing could stop him. The alien fleet had taken down entire civilizations without breaking a sweat, and Earth was no different. Advance! Zorith shouted, pointing toward the distant cities that lay ahead. We will take their capitals. Their weapons mean nothing to us. The aliens moved forward in perfect formation, marching across the land with their weapons raised. Despite the strange incident, Zorith was confident. The humans had no chance against them. His forces were equipped with laser cannons and plasma rifles, and their armor was nearly indestructible. Earth's primitive forces, whatever they were, wouldn't stand a chance. As they moved deeper into human territory, something strange began to happen. The landscape, once peaceful, began to feel different. Zorith couldn't explain it, but it felt like the land itself was watching them. The ground beneath their boots trembled slightly with each step. It was as if the planet itself was trying to push them away. Keep moving forward. Zorith ordered again, trying to shake the feeling off. But his soldiers were starting to look uneasy. The further they went, the stranger it became. The trees seemed to whisper in the wind, the sky above darkened unnaturally, and shadows moved in places where there should have been none. The air felt heavy with something Zorith couldn't quite grasp. Commander, one of the soldiers said, his voice trembling. There's something wrong. This place, it's alive. The humans are not like we thought. Zorith turned sharply. What do you mean, alive? It's a planet, not a living creature. But even as he spoke, a cold chill ran down his spine. Something was wrong. He could feel it now, deep in his bones. The air was thick, the ground uneven, and the quiet was unnatural. Suddenly, one of the alien soldiers screamed. Zorith spun around just in time to see a massive tree branch swipe down from above, crushing the soldier in an instant. The branch, thick as a giant's arm, had appeared out of nowhere. The other aliens reacted immediately, firing their weapons in all directions, but it was as if the trees themselves were attacking. Retreat! Zorith yelled, panic creeping into his voice. But before the order could reach the soldiers, more branches came crashing down, followed by roots rising from the ground, wrapping around the legs of the aliens. It was like the entire forest was alive, fighting back against the invaders. The aliens tried to break free, but the roots tightened, pulling them into the earth. They fired their weapons in desperation, but the blasts did little to slow down the relentless attack. One by one, the soldiers were trapped or dragged beneath the soil, their screams echoing through the eerie silence. Zoritha's mind raced. What kind of weapon was this? No technology on Earth should have been capable of this. The humans hadn't even fired a shot yet the land itself was killing his troops. In the distance, he could see flashes of movement, humans, emerging from the shadows, watching from the trees. It was a nightmare. Zorith, now filled with rage and disbelief, fired his own weapon at the closest tree, the blast shaking the ground. The tree groaned and split, but it didn't stop. The roots kept coming. The trees kept attacking. Fall back. Zorith yelled again, trying to pull his troops into retreat. But something strange happened. The more they moved, the tighter the roots seemed to get. They were caught in a trap, and there was no way out. Zoritha's pride had been shattered. He had underestimated the planet. And now, the consequences were clear. Earth was not a place to be conquered. It was a place that would fight back. As the last of his soldiers were pulled into the ground, Zorith realized the full truth: this invasion was not going as planned. And if they didn't escape soon, it might be the end of the alien fleet. Zorith barely managed to escape the trap set by the Earth's strange, living landscape. His boots hit the ground hard as he leaped back toward his ship, breathing heavily, his mind racing. The air around him felt suffocating, thick with an energy he could not comprehend. The alien soldiers who had survived were in disarray, scattered and disoriented, struggling to regain control of their senses. This was not the Earth they had expected. This was a battlefield that fought back. Zorith quickly ordered a regroup. His voice, once filled with pride, now carried a sharp edge of urgency. Get the troops back in line. We are not retreating. We are not beaten. He could see that the alien soldiers were terrified, their normally rigid postures now bent with fear. The land seemed to be alive, reacting violently to their presence. Every step they took felt like it provoked the planet even more. I told you, Zorith thought to himself, the bitter taste of his arrogance stinging his mind. I underestimated them. The alien fleet began to reorganize, but it was clear that morale was low. The invaders were strong, but Earth had a force they had not accounted for, a power beyond technology, beyond weapons. The alien fleet had been expecting to face humans armed with primitive tools and machines, but what they had encountered was far more dangerous than they could have imagined. As the aliens hesitated, a new force entered the fray. Hidden behind the trees, blending seamlessly with the environment, human soldiers emerged. At first glance, they looked like ordinary men and women, dressed in simple clothing. But there was a deadly seriousness in their eyes, a quiet confidence in their movements. They had no advanced technology. They carried no laser weapons or plasma guns. Instead, they wielded old-fashioned weapons, bows, arrows, and swords. But there was a terrifying skill to their actions. With every movement, they seemed to anticipate the aliens' next move. It was as if they had trained their entire lives for this moment. Zoritha's soldiers, still recovering from the earlier ambush, were caught off guard. They fired their weapons at the humans, but their advanced lasers barely made a dent in the attackers' defensive tactics. The humans moved like shadows, dodging laser beams and returning fire with arrows that struck with deadly precision. Even though they were outmatched in terms of technology, the humans fought with an intensity and coordination that was unnerving. One by one, alien soldiers were struck by arrows, their armor unable to withstand the impact. Zorith watched in disbelief as humans worked together seamlessly, pushing back the alien invaders with nothing but their raw skill and determination. Impossible, Zorith muttered to himself. How are they doing this? How are they defeating us with such primitive weapons? In the chaos, Zorith saw something even more surprising. A group of humans had gathered near the center of the battlefield, seemingly in communication with something unseen. The ground beneath them began to vibrate. The alien commander's eyes widened as he realized what was happening. The humans weren't alone. They had help. Suddenly, the trees that had attacked his soldiers earlier began to move again, but this time, they were more controlled, more focused. The trees raised their massive branches, using them like weapons to swat down the remaining alien forces. The ground cracked open, and from the depths of Earth itself, massive stone golems rose. These creatures, made of rock and soil, towered over the aliens. Their eyes glowed with an eerie light, and their movements were slow but powerful. The humans, with their unexplainable connection to the land, were controlling the very planet itself. It was as if the Earth had awakened, responding to their call for protection. Zoritha's mind raced, trying to make sense of what he was witnessing. This was not something his advanced technology could combat. The alien weapons, once thought to be invincible, now felt useless. Earth's power was not just in its land, but in the hearts of its people, their unity, their survival instinct, their unwillingness to give up. Zoritha's confidence began to falter. For the first time, he felt fear. Retreat, he yelled, but it was too late. The alien soldiers were already losing the battle. Some tried to flee, only to be caught by the living trees that lashed out with terrifying speed. The rest fought back desperately, but Earth's defenders were relentless. Every time an alien soldier struck down a human, 10 more appeared from the shadows, ready to fight. The human resistance was unlike anything Zorith had ever encountered. They fought not just for survival but for something deeper, for their homes, their families, their planet. It was a power that no amount of technology or firepower could match. Zorith turned to his remaining officers, his face twisted with frustration and confusion. "This is not a war we can win," he admitted, his voice tight. "These humans, they are unlike any species we've encountered. We must leave now before we lose everything." But the alien fleet had already suffered too many casualties. The humans had proven that Earth was not a place to conquer. It was a place to protect, and they would stop at nothing to defend it. As Zoritha's forces retreated into the skies, the humans stood victorious, their resilience having driven back an entire alien invasion. But they knew this battle was only the beginning. The question now was not whether they could defend Earth, but whether the aliens would return, and if so, would they be ready for the next fight? Zoritha's retreat was swift, but it wasn't enough to escape the human force that had arisen from the very Earth itself. As the alien fleet ascended into the sky, leaving behind the battered remnants of their once proud army, Zorith could feel the weight of their failure pressing down on him. His mind raced, but no answers came. What had just happened? How had the humans turned the tide of battle so quickly, so decisively? The humans had shown something the aliens had never expected. It wasn't just their physical strength or their ancient weapons. It was something deeper, a raw, undeniable willpower, an unbreakable spirit. The Earth was not just a planet to the humans, it was their home. It was the foundation of their identity, and they would fight to their last breath to protect it. Zorith stood before his remaining officers in the control room of his flagship, his face a mask of frustration and anger. The air around them hummed with the power of their ship's engines, but even that couldn't drown out the sound of his own racing heartbeat. "We will not make the same mistake again," Zorith said coldly, his voice laced with bitter resolve. "This time, we will crush them completely. No more delays." But his officers weren't as confident. One of them, a young lieutenant, hesitated before speaking. "Commander, the humans, they're not like anything we've encountered. The way they fought, the lieutenant trailed off, clearly shaken by what they had just witnessed. Zorith turned to him, his eyes narrowing. "Explain yourself," he demanded. "They're not just fighting for survival," the lieutenant continued, his voice trembling. "It's as if they are one with their planet. The trees, the animals, even the land itself, it reacts to their call. I've never seen anything like it." Zorith clenched his fists, the frustration rising within him. He had never considered that such a force could exist, something beyond weapons, beyond technology. The humans, with their primitive tools and their simple ways, had managed to stand up to a fleet of advanced warships and weapons. The thought gnawed at him, unsettling him in ways he hadn't felt in years. "No more hesitation," Zorith said with finality. "We will return to Earth, but this time, we will take the fight to their cities. We will not give them a chance to regroup." Meanwhile, on the ground, the humans were celebrating their unexpected victory. In the heart of a small, hidden village nestled deep in the forest, the leaders of the human resistance gathered around a fire. The air was filled with the hum of victory, but there was no time for complacency. They knew that this battle had been only the beginning. "We've won this round," said Commander Elena, the leader of the human forces. "But we've only delayed them. They will come back stronger, more prepared. We have to be ready for the next wave." The group around her nodded, their faces grim. They had fought valiantly, but they knew that the alien invaders would not give up so easily. Earth's defenders had proven their strength, but the real battle was yet to come. Elena stood and addressed her fellow commanders, her voice calm but filled with determination. "We need to gather more forces. We need to organize every human on this planet who is willing to fight. We will not let them destroy our home." The others nodded in agreement. The aliens had underestimated humanity, but that would be their downfall. The humans weren't just fighting for land or power, they were fighting for everything they held dear. For their families, their homes, their future. "We've seen what they can do," Elena continued. "But we've also seen what we can do. They may have technology, but we have something they'll never understand. The will to fight, to survive. And we'll make sure they know that Earth is not theirs to take." In the distance, beyond the safety of their village, a low rumble echoed through the air. It was faint at first, like thunder in the distance. But as the minutes passed, the ground began to tremble beneath their feet. "They're coming," one of the soldiers whispered, his voice filled with dread. Elena's eyes hardened. "We've been waiting for this. We'll be ready." As the rumble grew louder, the humans began to prepare. They didn't have the advanced weapons of the aliens, but they had something far more powerful, the element of surprise, a deep connection to the land, and a collective resolve to protect their home at all costs. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Zoratha's fleet was returning to Earth, more determined than ever to crush the humans once and for all. But as they approached the planet, something strange began to happen. The stars around them seemed to flicker, and the very fabric of space felt wrong. The sense of unease that had plagued Zorath since the first battle only grew stronger. He looked out the window of his ship, his eyes scanning the vast expanse of space. "What's happening?" he murmured, his voice filled with doubt. His officer, standing beside him, swallowed nervously. "It's Earth, sir. Something's changing." Zoratha's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "The planet," the officer said, his voice shaky. "It's like it's preparing for something. We've never seen anything like it." Zoratha's mind raced. Had the humans somehow triggered a new force within Earth? Had they awakened something that even the aliens couldn't control? The question hung in the air, unanswered and ominous. The turning point had come. The battle for Earth was far from over, and both sides were preparing for the fight of their lives. But this time, something was different. Something deep inside Earth had been awakened, and neither the aliens nor the humans fully understood what it could mean. Zoratha's fleet emerged from the dark reaches of space, descending toward Earth with a chilling sense of finality. The silence between his officers was palpable, broken only by the hum of the engines as they powered through the atmosphere. They had made a critical error, one that would soon cost them more than they could afford. But this time, they would not make the same mistake. Earth had proven resilient, but Zorath was determined to crush the resistance. The alien commander stood at the helm of his flagship, his eyes narrowing as the planet below grew larger, its surface now visible. This time, there would be no surprise attacks, no traps. They would land in force, deploy their advanced weaponry, and wipe out every human standing. "Prepare for full invasion," Zorath ordered, his voice cold and determined. "We will not fail again. This time, there will be no mercy." The alien soldiers, grim and resolute, began to take their positions. Their weapons were primed, and the air buzzed with anticipation. They were ready to finish what they had started. As the alien ships descended into Earth's atmosphere, a strange unease rippled through the fleet. The very air around them seemed charged, alive with a force they couldn't comprehend. The ground below them appeared to pulse, the oceans shimmering in unnatural waves. It was as if Earth was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. On the ground, the humans had not been idle. Their forces had gathered, spread across cities and hidden villages, preparing for the oncoming storm. Every man, woman, and child had rallied behind the cause, driven by a deep sense of unity and purpose. They knew what was at stake. They understood what their world meant. And they were not going to let it fall without a fight. Commander Elena stood at the front of her forces, watching as the alien ships neared their targets. She felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her, but there was no fear in her eyes, only resolve. The earth itself seemed to resonate with her thoughts, and she felt an unspoken connection to the land beneath her feet. It was as if the planet was responding to their call, waking up from a long slumber. "We've faced them before," Elena said, her voice steady and strong. "And now we will face them again. But this time, we have something they can't understand." The humans, now armed with the knowledge of how to fight back, had prepared new weapons, simple, yet effective. They had forged spears and arrows from the earth itself, weapons that could channel the very energy of the planet. They had learned to tap into the energy that the aliens had failed to recognize, Earth's deep, hidden power. And they would use that power to defend their home. As the alien ships began to descend, a powerful tremor shook the ground. The trees, the mountains, the very air seemed to react to the arrival of the invaders. Suddenly, the earth erupted with energy, waves of force rising from the soil, shaking the alien fleet to its core. "What's happening?" one of Zoratha's officers shouted, his voice filled with fear. "The planet, it's resisting us." Zorath gritted his teeth. The alien commander had never been one to admit weakness, but there was no denying it now. Earth had awakened, and it was far stronger than he had imagined. The planet was fighting back in ways that no technology could understand. The alien ships struggled to maintain their course, their engines sputtering as the very air seemed to push them away. The energy pulses from Earth intensified, causing their systems to malfunction. Their weapons fired wildly, hitting nothing but empty space. They were losing control. Back on the ground, the humans watched as the Earth's power surged in response to their call. Massive stone pillars rose from the earth, surrounding their forces, creating a protective barrier that the alien weaponry could not penetrate. The trees, too, began to move, their branches extending to shield the humans, and the animals of the forests appeared as if summoned by a hidden force, ready to fight alongside them. Elena stood at the heart of the battlefield, watching in awe as the planet responded to her people's plea. The ground beneath her feet vibrated with an energy she had never felt before. It was as if the earth itself had chosen to protect them, to fight for their survival. Zoratha's fleet was in chaos. Ships were being torn apart by the sheer force of Earth's resistance. The energy pulses grew stronger, and the alien forces began to panic. There was nothing they could do. They had underestimated the planet, and now they were paying the price. "Retreat! We must leave now!" Zorath yelled, but it was too late. His command was drowned out by the roar of the earth, as massive cracks appeared in the ground beneath the fleet. Ships fell, their massive frames crashing into the earth, unable to escape the force of the planet's defense. Zorath, watching his forces crumble, felt something he had never experienced: desperation. The alien commander had prided himself on his invincibility, but now he saw the truth. Earth had not just been a planet to invade, it had been a sleeping giant, and it had awakened. As the last of his fleet crashed into the earth, Zorath realized his fatal mistake. He had underestimated the strength of humanity, and worse, he had underestimated the power of the planet they called home. In the final moments, as the dust settled, the humans stood victorious. The alien invaders, once so confident, lay scattered and defeated. Earth had proven that it could protect itself, and its people. Elena watched as the last of the alien ships disintegrated in the distance, her heart filled with pride. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. The aliens would never return. Earth had sent them a message they would never forget. Never underestimate humanity. Never underestimate Earth.